We're back, baby. It's the Charity Stripe. Pitch your free throws because they are for Reed, Joshua Fisher, Alexander Toss Me the Rock, Tosopoulos, and DJ Nikki Snacks Kreider. Gentlemen, there has been a year plus of speculation on the Deshaun Watson situation. We finally have our answer coming down from the NFL today. He has to accept this. It's an 11-game ban rather than the 6-game ban initially put forth, plus $5 million fine. I know we never look at the fines of players and owners, and we always think it is chump change. And if you look at his $200 million plus guaranteed contract, kind of is a bit pennies, but $5 million is a steep price, plus the 11 games ban. What are your guys' initial reactions? Too much? Not enough? Surprised? What does this mean for the Browns this season? Now, he's not banned for the full season. He still have 6 more games to play this year. And I think that this is a team with the rest of the roster they could potentially contend. So do they go get Jimmy G? I want to put all those questions in front of you guys.
Plus the playoffs, too, if they make the playoffs, considering they make it, right? Because if there's 6 games left at the end of the season, let's say that whoever they have at the helm has got them to a point where they're at least competitive. Then there's 6 extra games left with a good quarterback and then playoff time, and there's an extra wildcard team as well. So I still don't think it's enough, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, it's an extra 5 games. 11 seems kind of obscure in terms of, adding 5 more games to the slate. $5 million also seems kind of low, considering he's making $230 million. The flip side of all this is innocent until proven guilty. There hasn't been any formal trial or anything where he's been admitted guilt or been proven that he's guilty. Mm-hmm. So, in the sense that this could all be premature just because he hasn't really been found guilty in, the court of law. In terms of Jimmy G getting brought over, I think the asking price got a little bit higher just considering what they're going to be asking of him. And then also because there's another suitor in the mix with the Jets, with Zach Wilson going down. So there's just a multitude of things, but the longer this drags out, the more I'm seeing that maybe Jimmy G doesn't go. Because if you want to get rid of Jimmy G, or if Jimmy G goes to a new destination or your team that wants to bring him in, wouldn't you want to get him in as soon as possible so he learns the playbook quicker and he's got more time to mesh and gel with his team? I mean, we're sitting here and we're a little less than 3 weeks out from the first regular season game. Clock is ticking.
Yeah, I mean, the teams that could go get Jimmy G conceivably, Seahawks, Texans, looks like they've made their beds. They're either going to, surprise some people, which any given Sunday, but experts say doubtful, or they're going to tank and be in a position to get C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young, the 2 top fish heading into the college football season. And I don't doubt, barring injury, that they will be the 2 top fish when we finish the college football season. As far as they want to go and take a quarterback now, we all have a little stock. We have a share house on Davis Mills Island. I don't think we have individual properties.
It's
like a charity stripe. Hey, like your family has it one weekend, my family has the next weekend.
Timeshare.
Timeshare. And then we Airbnb it for the weekends that we can make some profit. But if the Texans are in a position they could go get Will Anderson, so on and so forth, I think the Jets are out of the mix. I think they like Joe. I think they have Joe Flacco, who's not Jimmy G, but he's boring, less handsome Jimmy G, not as talented Jimmy G. He's like done the whole thing that Jimmy G's done, right? A guy that we think is not that great, but is a winner, gone to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl. He's won. So he's technically, right? I think he's the guy right now.
Like Joe Flacco is not elite, but is he more elite than Jimmy G?
Potentially, yeah.
He's older.
He's older, yes.
I think his capabilities are way more limited than Jimmy G. Jimmy G's in his prime right now.
Of course. Of course. But I think the differentiation between the Jets and the Browns, which we all know.
Competitive and not competitive.
Right. And so are you okay
but do the Jets know that, though? I feel like the Jets are kind of putting on this contender mask that they think that they might actually sniff a chance. Adding all these new wide receivers, there's the defense is getting a little bit of an upgrade. Coach has a second year under his belt. I mean, they could definitely shock some people. I don't think that they're going to be the worst team in the NFL.
No,
No,
they're
but
the worst team in their
they're
division.
the worst team in the division, though, still. And they also have potentially the best team in the NFL in that division. They have the Patriots, who never really miss a beat, even if, they're not the Patriots from 5 years ago. But and the Dolphins, who are also supposed to be better this year, just like the Jets are supposed to be better. So I think for me, we bring up the Deshaun Watson thing, the Jimmy G, even if he doesn't know the playbook, even if he's slotted it only for 11 games in Cleveland, as you guys said 2 weeks ago, to me, that makes the most sense because he's a better quarterback as it stands, whether he knows the playbook or not, than what the Browns currently are rolling out under center in the gun. So it makes sense there. And then it's just Jimmy G is doing a 1-year pit stop in Cleveland until he finds his next situation, which if that's not what he wants, I think the 49ers aren't able to get what they want, then he won't end up in Cleveland because they still have a good relationship and they're not going to take just anything for him, right? They want something substantial, whether that's, a 3rd round pick, which like to them would be very substantial if that's what they can get for him.
Can they even give that up anymore? Like what draft capital? They've traded like half the draft of Deshaun Watson, not half the draft, but just 1st round picks.
Well, I mean, the Texans here are the biggest winner of this whole thing. They're sitting here with Deshaun an 11-game suspension, and they still get all these 1st round picks, which is great for their future. But I talked to a 49ers reporter pretty recently, and they said that Jimmy G has a better chance of getting released than getting traded.
I think that's not I think it's a fair point because you get to the position like we're discussing, like what's the value? Like the value, you can't, he's better than a 6th round pick. I mean, a lot of the times, a lot of these guys are like Amari Cooper's better than a 6th round pick. And that's what he went for. We see that time and time again, but you want to demand that from Cleveland, but I don't necessarily know if they're going to give that up. Maybe a 4th in the future. I do think his best chance, because I think that team fits them. Because Toss, I think in a one-off, like just when we were hanging out, like we were talking about, imagine if Jimmy G is the quarterback, what that would mean for Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt from a fantasy perspective. I think Jimmy G is a proven guy that he's a great game manager and that this team's true identity in Cleveland is to run the football. Same, I also think with the New York Jets. I think the New York Jets have a good young 1-2 punch with Hall and Michael Carter. Like Hall obviously is going to be the clear-cut back. He was fantastic at Iowa State, but Michael Carter ain't no slouch. He's been overlooked with Javonte Williams, but he was excellent at North Carolina. He was solid last year. He had some great spurts for the Jets. I think their identity as well with all the receivers they've added is to run the football. Unfortunately, I was just having this thought because we're Longhorns, and the New York Jets kind of remind me of Texas.
Don't
football.
say that.
Sorry.
Please don't ever say that.
It just came to me because they have all these new toys. Everyone's focusing on the offense, but really the focal point needs to be the defense.
Okay, but just in terms of like a history, please don't ever say that. The Texas Longhorns actually win.
Yeah. Hey, look, Mark Sanchez, baby. He wants the AFC Championship back-to-back years.
Yeah, and the Longhorns won a national championship.
Yeah, it's true.
I think that was the last time the Jets won a Super Bowl.
Shout out
Joe Namath.
Number Super Bowl 3, baby. Hey, look, at least they won in a fur coat. Like Joe Namath won in the coat you're wearing right now. I would love, for the Browns' sake, though, I don't even know if I could say I would love, because I think they kind of deserve this. They completely brought them upon this. They brought this upon themselves. I think the Panthers, by the way, could have lucked out maybe the most. Because if you're the Panthers and Baker works out, and then all of a sudden you had a franchise QB, like what if it's the Baker of 2 years ago, and last season was because Baker was hurt and he needed a fresh start, and he had the Odell semi-distraction in the mix, and the Browns kicked him to the curb, brushed him aside. He's in Carolina now, and he's their guy. Totally overtakes Darnold. McCaffrey's fully healthy. DJ Moore, a guy who we think is very underrated and has a pop-off season. They have Terrace Marshall there. Like, they have some guys.
Robbie Anderson, who didn't want him.
Didn't want him, yeah. Ike Ekwonu, though, like, he's already their starting left tackle, proves to be an absolute steal and a gold mine in the draft, similar like a Tristan Wirfs type deal. And they hit a home run there. their defense has a lot of good pieces. Like, this is a Panthers team. I'm not saying is winning the Super Bowl, but can be solid, like can be competitive. They could be competitive in some games. They have a lot of talent over there. And the sneaky winner of this whole thing could be the Carolina Panthers. Browns got greedy, maybe.
Yeah. I think it was a freezing cold take to say that the Panthers aren't winning the Super Bowl this year. But I do agree with you on all your points. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it was, sometimes you got to give the people some ice. This isn't Europe. We don't like lukewarm water.
It's been a hot summer. Yeah. Some ice will do some people well.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, I will say this. I am glad the Deshaun Watson situation is
finally over.
I just love it.
I still don't think it's over, but I think we definitely have a little bit more clarity now.
I just hate when things drag in sports. I hate it. Like, I hate the KD drag. Like, remember, like, throughout the week, he's going to retire before he plays for the Nets, which was maybe one of the dumbest speculations in the history of speculations. Like, I wish that problem would be resolved. I don't think the Spider Mitchell thing's the same situation because he's not begging to leave, but I wish the KD saga would just come to an end already. Like, either move him to the Heat, move him to Philly somehow, or don't, and call it a day. And both parties reconcile. It's just cumbersome, and I just, again, I'm very at least glad that we have somewhat of a resolution to the Deshaun Watson situation. And I like Jacoby Brissett. Once a Patriot, always a Patriot. So I'll be pulling for him if Jimmy G, and imagine that, him and Jimmy G back together again over in Cleveland. That'd be great.
I think they're all still friends. He and Brady, Jimmy and Jacoby. Like, I think they still keep in touch. Every now and then I see some photos of the crew, the former Pats QBs, all former Pats. None of them on the Pats anymore. Josh, how's that make you feel? You sad?
No, because if we could get into the Patriots a little bit, we touched on the Panthers. There's a lot of fights. There was a fight. What do you mean, oh God, bro? We could diatribe about the Padres all day, but I think we could give the Patriots some love. I think that with New England, because it was a big story this week, a lot of fights broken out of camp. I love the fire and the identity, the young identity that's coming to this team. Mac Jones was one of the guys that instigated the fights. I can't repeat what he said on, radio.
Paraphrase.
He basically told him to hold his jock strap. In a paraphrase, he told Brian Burns, who's one of the best, if not probably the best defensive player the Panthers have. Fantastic edge player. After a touchdown. And I'm into that. Typically when you think of now we've become accustomed to Tom Brady's fieriness and his, well-deserved cocky attitude in some senses is modestly cocky. If you could, juxtapose those words go together. But I like Mac Jones coming in as a fiery second-year guy. And he deserves to be so. He took his team as a rookie to the playoffs. Like you're saying, really didn't miss that much of a beat. It's not like the Pats won the Super Bowl and Brady was gone the next year. They also got bounced by the Titans right away at home. So in Brady's last year in New England. So Mac Jones coming into the season with the Patriots, I'm looking to see him make this his team. It's always going to be the Patriot way, but I truthfully want – there's so much attention being given to Zach Wilson and what he could be. There's so much attention for Trey Lance, who really hasn't been a starting quarterback this year. I think people are overlooking Mac Jones' potential. And again, a lot of it is right place, right time. Patriots are ready to have a quarterback. And I think it's like, we brought up the Seahawks earlier. The Seahawks get CJ Stroud. I think they're going to be in a good position because I think they're a team that's bad, but I don't think their roster as a whole is quite terrible.
Well, I think part of the discussion of the quarterbacks, the sophomore quarterbacks, has to do with their skill set and what their talent peak could be, right? And I think that Zach Wilson and Trey Lance can both do things and have physical tools that Mac Jones doesn't have. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be better NFL quarterbacks. Right now, Mac Jones is ahead of them because he takes care of the ball and he's more efficient at running an offense. And we talked about it, I think, last week with Zach Wilson and his turnovers, and that's something that when he gets healthy, he's going to need to reduce. Trey Lance, in his small sample size, was pretty impressive with what he did, especially with his legs. And so I think, like, I understand why more people are talking about Zach Wilson and Trey Lance right now, because it's more people are inclined to talk about Maseratis than they are a Toyota Avalon. But the Toyota Avalon gets you 180,000 miles and runs for a really long time and hardly ever needs a tune-up. So
yeah. Look, you can put Mac Jones. I was looking at Kenny Pickett. So we're going to get into fantasy in our second segment.
He's getting some hype.
Yeah. A lot of these guys, a lot of people's opinions and level of excitement are also come from, especially this time of year, from a fantasy football perspective. People are excited about Justin Fields and Trey Lance as well.
Mac Jones will never be a top 6 quarterback in fantasy.
No, probably never a top 10. And will Kenny Pickett? Maybe not either. Like, I don't look at him and I go, ooh, that's a fantasy future right there. No, he's probably never going to jump Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow, Lamar, Kyler, Trey Lance with the small sample size we've seen, what we're expecting. When Deshaun Watson does come back, he's not going to jump. These guys are all young guys. They're going to be in the league for a very long time. He's not going to.
Matthew Stafford, Super winning QB in some fantasy leagues, I think could possibly be a backup or a streamer candidate, which is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, Jalen Hurts. Like, we all love Jalen. We all see the potential there. But I don't think anybody regards him as a top 12 quarterback in the league from just from a quarterback standpoint.
But fantasy-wise,
he'll probably be a top 5 QB in every league.
And his job is on the line.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we didn't even mention Josh Allen, who's the number 1 fantasy quarterback. But I look at Kenny Pickett, and PFF graded the worst quarterback last year as Ben Roethlisberger. And they went to the playoffs. Trubisky seems to have the job right now, but what if Pickett, ends up getting grasped on the job? If Trubisky either A, loses it before, week 1, or he doesn't pan out.
How long is the leash here?
For Trubisky?
Yeah.
Not long at all. This is his second stint. And you just drafted a guy in the first round who's a hometown kid.
I get it, but at the same time, it's like if you have a roster, which the Steelers do, that's competitive enough to make the playoffs because they went last year, based off their defense, and they still have got weapons as well. Got a great running back. They've got good receivers. Then you have to have some stability. As Texas Longhorns, we know it best. You can't have a quarterback carousel the entire season. You got to figure it out really soon. So if they're going to roll with Trubisky, then I would say they got to give him at least 4 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, 4 games. But if they're 1-3 after the 4 games, he's getting.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, 100%. But I mean, I don't think 1 or 2 weeks really.
No.
Unless he's throwing like 3 to 5 picks every game. But I don't see that happening.
I'm just saying this is a situation where Kenny Pickett beats him outright in camp. Like, that's a situation.
Well, it doesn't have a ton of time left.
Doesn't have a ton of time, and I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Trubisky's terrible. I don't think they're going to be in a position where they have to just roll Kenny Pickett out right away. But he's a guy. I look at him. I go, this is the perfect situation, and he may never be a top-tier fantasy quarterback, but he could be a quarterback that goes in and wins you games because of where he's gone and Mike Tomlin's literal inability to have a bad season.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's never had a losing record, this guy.
I mean, I'd love to say that he might go down as a top 10, top 5 greatest coach of all time.
At least that we've seen.
He hasn't won enough. I mean, he's only gotten 1 Super Bowl, but at the same time, he's just a ridiculous coach. I think every single player that ever plays for him just loves him to death. He really knows how to motivate a team. Like you just said, he has just this wild inability to ever have a bad season. It's just unfathomable. I mean, he's really stood the test of time, and he's been with that one team his entire career.
Yeah. Obviously, winning the Super Bowl is the most meaningful thing that you can do as a coach. But if you look at from an owner's perspective, to never have a losing season and to keep what is already a historic franchise and a massive fan base happy by being in contention every year, that's huge, right? He holds a record. Doing exactly what you need to be doing as a head coach.
He's also only 50.
Yeah, I mean, he's already seen Heinz Field turn into a Creasier Field. I mean, that's being at a team for a very long time.
What is that? I hate that.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's a bad name.
It does not roll off the tongue.
No. I mean, I thought I thought you did a solid job. I would have been lost in space.
Nick Krieger.
Ugh.
It's close. It's close, dude. It's closer
What
than you
even is a
think.
Krieger?
Dude, I
know,
don't know.
They're an insurance company. Boo.
Always is insurance, dude. Always is. It's always an insurance company. Is there an Aflac? Is it Aflac? Progressive?
No.
Is there a Progressive?
There's Progressive Field. That's Twins, right?
Yeah. Right on. Yeah, I mean, it always makes sense. Well,
I mean, I feel like the Ducks are missing a big opportunity to have the Aflac Arena, right?
yeah, I mean, that is definitely a misbow. They should definitely get involved there. And we can discuss more of that in just a hot sec. We get back for our second segment over here where the charity stripe pitcher free throws do not go anywhere. It's the charity stripe. Pitcher free throws, cuz they're free. Joshua Fisher, Alexander Tossman, Rock, Desopoulos, Nikki, Snacks, Crider. We were talking about stadium names, missed opportunities. Let's talk about potentially some more missed opportunities here, fellas. Fantasy football. How many leagues are you guys in to start, by the way? And also, what are some of your initial gut check reactions, strategies, things you're looking for right now? I'm in a dynasty league at the moment, so that's a bit different, but I've started another. First of all, have you guys ever been in a position where you've done a rolling draft?
No. I think that's kind of lame. I kind of like the idea of sitting down one night and doing it all right there so you can process the whole team at the end of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think it's certain. I have not done it before. I think it's more fun to do it in one sitting. But I do understand people have busy schedules, and sometimes the rolling draft can benefit, the league at large and just getting it done. The interesting thing is normally it has to happen really early, right? So things can.
What time did you start that?
Or
like what date did you start it?
The dynasty one, dude.
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, like people already complain enough about the clock on or the timer on draft day that's too long when it's like a minute long, and they want to move it down to 30 seconds. You're telling me that each pick takes what, like probably an average of 3 days?
Yeah, I mean, it's like we can move like a round takes like a long time. Like I'm in 2 right now on the sleeper app. Sleeper app's kind of cool.
You're on two rolling drafts?
Yeah, my college league and this dynasty league that I'm in. I mean, first of all, the guy that recruited me to the dynasty league was like, because there's like Texas guys, there's Los Angeles guys. He's like, your connections and ties to Los Angeles and Texas and your knowledge of the game makes you a great candidate for this league if you choose to accept. It's like, dude, like, are we drafting guys to be good on Sundays and sometimes Thursdays and Mondays, or we going to invade Iraq? Like, what was that message? You just ask me if I want to be in a league or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was so intense. But like, I mean, the dynasty league, it's funny because it's like supposed to be a rolling draft. You pick whenever. Like, we have so much time.
And that sounds like if Kendall Roy was like the commissioner of a league.
Yeah, I mean, like we have so much time, yet everyone, like, when you don't pick, is on you. And some guy yesterday in the group text was finally like, sorry that I'm living my life rather than making our 700th pick. I was like, yeah, it's so true. Like, whatever. Like, I just, I mean, you guys know me in fantasy. I always make like my team name something ridiculous about someone in the league's mother. And like the person's mother I just made my team name in this league just finally realized the other day. So that was also a really nice comeuppance. But in that league, I went I had the 3rd pick. I went Jamar Chase, who I think is a valuable top 10 pick. And then we went Herbert on the background. And then Kamara, who looks like he's going to be able to play the entire season. I know that's a big worry of a lot of people. You have Mark Ingram as the handcuff there, and Abram Smith, a guy we liked at Baylor, rookie. I just going through the draft, and I know a lot of leagues are with 3 wide receiver sets, but I still think there's so much depth at the wide receiver position.
There always is.
There always is. And I know there's so many question marks like surrounding like the running backs. Like Jonathan Taylor, by and large, seems to be the top guy you got to take. I don't think there's much of a question.
Yeah, I mean, there was a multitude of reasons why too. He has a great season, but I think number one is he's been able to stay healthy more than any of these other running backs.
Well, that's the thing. That's the
Well,
only thing that to
I
go.
think format is everything, though, right?
Yeah.
Like if whether because you're in a standard league, of course Jonathan Taylor's the pick based off of how many touchdowns he scored last year, and I expect that there will be probably a slight regression, but maybe not. I mean, based off of Matt Ryan being the quarterback, I think we all like him more than Carson Wentz. But I think, standard takes you one way, half point, which I think most leagues are and most leagues should be, takes you in another direction. And then PPR is just no man's land. I mean, that completely changes the game. And I even think that people would have some contention with JT as the number one pick because look, McCaffrey is healthy and he's coming into the season healthy, even in spurts last year. When he was between being injured and being on the field, he always performs when he's on the field.
It's just so hard to trust that number one overall, though, because he's had back-to-back seasons where he's gone out. I wouldn't do it, in my opinion. If he was there at like pick number 3, maybe a little bit, more enticing, but it's just so tough when you have back-to-back serious injuries.
And to devil's advocate, what I said at the top, I would probably take Justin Jefferson over McCaffrey.
Yeah, if it's a full PPR, yeah.
I mean, he just, to me, first of all, JJ could be the best, could go down at the end of the season as the best receiver in the league.
Or if you're in a super flex league and you have 2 QBs, right? Josh Allen has to be the first pick, I think.
He just went first. So the one I'm in now is 2 QBs, 10 teams, and there's 3 picks that have been made. Josh Allen, JT, and Herbert have been the 3 picks in a row. So, like, what I'm seeing a lot of, I'm getting more and more enticed at the back end because my other leagues, like, I'm in so many different leagues where I'm not in a league anymore, by the way, where it's just your typical QB, 2 RBs, 3 wide receivers, tight end, flat, whatever, where you just draft normally, restart every year. The California league we're in is 10 teams, 2 QBs, which I think if it's a 10-team league, there's enough good quarterbacks where it should be 2 QBs and everyone could have a backup to run in there. The other one in college is 2 QBs with ridiculous rules. We're starting to drop kickers across the board. My home league is a keeper league where I've kept CeeDee Lamb for a 4th and Josh Allen for a 6th. And now I'm drafting at the back end, but Jonathan Taylor has been kept. Cooper Kupp's been kept. Who else? There's other guy. I mean, there's another couple guys at the top that Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson are all kept. I'm looking at Travis Kelce. What do you guys think of him at the back end of the first round?
I think his stock went up because now Mahomes has one less weapon out there, one less safety blanket, and I feel like Kelce probably gets an extra 2 or 3 receptions a game now.
Mm-hmm. Are you looking at that? Yeah.
I was just going to say, and potentially more touchdowns too, right?
Sure.
Definitely. He's the number 1 red zone target in the AFC.
Yeah. What are you looking at from a standpoint on that? We could just kind of, peter between teams. Obviously, Mahomes, Kelce, or Kelce's the top 10 end. Mahomes is a top 3 to 4 quarterback being taken. The loss of Tyreek Hill are scaring some people. You have MVS, Juju, who at a point was a first-round talent, back-end first-round, early second-round talent. McCole Hardman, who's been there the entire time. And toss your shit. I mean, I'm with you.
The only guys I'm drafting on that team are Mahomes and Kelce. I'd have Juju as like, if it's a really 3 wide receivers in a flex, okay, maybe he's your flex, or maybe he's a bench guy that you kind of wait and see on. And then I'm not touching MVS. I'm not touching McCole Hardman. They're viable streamer candidates, but they're going to be what McCole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson have been for the last years, where every now and then they'll have a game where they have 2 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown, right? Which is fine.
Yeah. But where do those touches go, though? Where does Hill's touches go? Do they just get dispersed between those 3 guys?
I think Edwards Helaire is my other guy that I would draft and be starting as running back. But those are really
they definitely
4
get
guys.
They definitely get the running backs involved a lot more this year, in my opinion, and especially with Helaire getting a little bit more healthy and they're utilizing him more correctly. They have a backup running back that can actually do the more inside the tackle runs and throw the screen passes or the out routes to Clyde.
Yeah. This Pacheco guy is getting the rookie for the Chiefs. Is getting a lot of love. I mean,
They
I'm
also have
looking
Ronald
at
Jones. Like I'm more interested in their running back stable than I am their wide receiver stable for sure.
okay. DeAndre Hopkins is suspended 6 games, might get appealed 4 games. Where do you guys sit on the Rondale Moore Hollywood? Because that's one I've been mentally debating. Because I think one of those guys in Arizona could pop off. And there's a small part of me, though Hollywood and Kyler have that predetermined connection. I love the potential of like the smaller gadget guys. I love the potential of a guy like Rondale Moore. I love the potential of a guy like Kadarius Toney, who I think Kenny Galladay has been passed up as the number 1 guy. I'm looking at Wan'Dale Robinson, the rookie, on the Giants. Like the Giants, I look at the Giants wide receiver room. I look at these teams that are, why is Brandon Cooks always so valuable? Because their teams are always in garbage time. They're always playing down. And Brandon Cooks could go into the third quarter. He's got 3 for 48, and you're sitting there. He goes, ugh. He's got 7.8 points again. And next thing you know, he gets 4 or 5 receptions in the last, quarter, and he's got like 10 for 98.
I mean, he'll likely be a wide receiver 1 this year. Like just because he's going to get so much volume. Like he's got a mind meld with Davis Mills already, and I'm finally on board with it because he's the best. He might be the best player they have.
Brandon Cooks?
Yeah.
He's excellent. Brandon Cooks is an excellent wide receiver, man. He's really good. Like
especially if you're in a PPR league, Brandon Cooks, like if he drops and you can pick him as your second or third wide receiver, like that's chef's kiss right there. That's you're getting awesome value.
For a guy that's been moved so much, think about all the times he's been traded for like a first to the Pats, the Rams. Like he's got value. And there's a reason he's not as old as we think he is. He's just been around a long time. The Texans have kept him there. He is the clear-cut number 1. And I on that team, if you're looking at the bad teams and looking at these teams and go, okay, who can I capitalize on garbage time, and who's a person that I can maybe be weary of that I think can jump off the page that people are going to overlook them because they play for a dog doo-doo team? Like who do I look? Who could I get on the Seahawks? Is like a Rashad Penny, a guy I could get later in the draft that I think could pop off because people are going to overlook them because I think the Seahawks are terrible? Yeah.
And Chris Carson just retired too. So, I mean, he's going to get a lot more touches.
It's a 2-horse race.
I've been seeing a lot of love for Christian Kirk on the Jags because he's now the premier wide receiver there. But I'm not sure if I'm buying into that yet, just because Trevor Lawrence, I just don't know if he's good enough. And I don't know that they have the system in place to get a wide receiver that much volume. Like if you're drafting Kirk, then it's got to be a PPR where it's like, all right, you're counting on him to get at least 8 receptions a game. But are those 8 receptions going to be 150 yards, or are they going to be 70 yards, 80 yards?
Sure.
Well, it's also it's a wide receiver that's never won, who's being paid to be their wide receiver 1 right now. But he has no previous track record that should give you the trust to put him in that position, especially with a quarterback who's in his sophomore year who could find any target, right, that he likes and start to just rely on that person again and again and again. I mean, they still who was the tight end they traded for last year?
They have Evan Ingram now.
They got Evan Ingram. Do they still have Dan Arnold too? Who's not a bad second tight end?
No, but he's not. They have Marvin Jones. They have LaVisca. Chenault, James Robinson's going to be ready week 1. They just said today. Like again, devil's advocate to my point about who can I vulture on a bad team. I don't know what that team looks like. Whereas the Giants, first of all, they have a head coach coming in who, won a Super Bowl, but his last stint in Philadelphia, he was kicked out. Like the Giants have Dabble coming in. He was fantastic. I'm not saying Daniel Jones is going to be great, but he was fantastic for the Bills. Brian Dabble. Then you have Mike Kafka coming in. He was the passing game coordinator for the Chiefs. Like that offense at least is looking to fly. And they're going to get the most out of Danny Dimes. Saquon's fully healthy. I don't think the Giants are going to be necessarily good, but I think from a fantasy standpoint, like Kadarius Toney showed potential last year in a couple games. He had that one game where he popped off 10 for 8, 189 or something ridiculous like that. He had one game where he absolutely exploded. Like on the bad rosters, like the Jets, are interesting. Is it Elijah Moore? Corey Davis is like a late round guy that you can stash. But Elijah Moore, I think Chris Olave is going to pop for rookies if you're in keeper leagues. Like, I'm also in a couple keeper leagues where I'm like, okay, the guys kept Justin Jefferson for a 5th round value. I'm keeping CeeDee Lamb for a 4th round value. Jamar Chase is getting kept for a 5th round value. I also play a little bit like that. Like, who can I get later that I'm going to have the potential to keep down the line?
You've got big stock on Judy Island too, right?
Why would you not?
I think Jerry Judy is going to have a huge year with Russell Wilson here, and he's fully healthy now. I mean, he had a good year last year
when he was healthy.
Yeah. I mean, he's a great receiver. I mean, we were really high on him when he got drafted.
My favorite receiver coming out of that draft.
We loved him. I do think that Olave, though, might be the best receiver in terms of fantasy numbers that got drafted this year, just based off of the system he's in. Michael Thomas coming back and Jameis Wilson coming back healthy, too. A lot of people are really high on Jameis to have a big year.
Yeah. I mean, look, Jameis Winston was 14 touchdowns, like 3 picks or something like that before he went out last year. Like, that offense, juice is there, but he's an older guy. Like, people are high on George Pickens, but you still have the younger Clay, who's a talent.
He's NFL young boy.
Yeah, he's sick. I mean, you could get a wide receiver anywhere as long as they fit. I mean, look at how many good 2nd round wide receivers there are. There's another guy I can't see myself drafting and putting stock into AJ Brown as my wide receiver 1. How do you guys feel about that? If he was your wide receiver 1, how comfortable would? I mean, I know you'd have to look at the rest of your roster, but how comfortable? AJ Brown, yeah, how comfortable?
I like it. He's always, in my eyes, been a top tier wide receiver. I just think that he got hurt again last year as well, and I think maybe Tannehill just wasn't that great. I mean, sure, he was a game manager and he fit in their offense and they win games, but they've got a lot of guys to rely on. Derrick Henry, just feed him the ball, and that helps your offense immensely, opens up a lot of holes. And then when you decide to pass it, then your receivers are open. But with a healthy AJ Brown and a mobile quarterback who can get out of the pocket and improvise like Jalen Hurts, I think that AJ could definitely make some big leaps and bounds this year.
Mm-hmm. I like him as a 2. I don't, if I'm looking at my roster and he's my wide receiver 1, I'm not happy with it. The reason being is, yes, Jalen Hurts can improvise and he can open plays for AJ Brown, who's fantastic after the catch, but they run the ball a lot in Philadelphia. And Jalen Hurts runs the ball a lot. And it's a more talented arsenal of weapons at his disposal, as opposed to being the only guy that really was on that Titans team.
Oh, yeah. That's a great point.
Goddard is going to be, I think, a top 7 tight end this year, and possibly higher. I'd like to say top 5 because I think he has that talent. Mm-hmm. But there's just a lot of other good tight ends out there. They still have Devonta Smith, right, who they drafted with the 1st round pick. And they have, if Miles Sanders, and they're going to have running backs that get involved as well, because Jalen Hurts likes to dump it off to the running back too. So it's tough because I don't know how many pass attempts Jalen Hurts is going to average. Like last year, I feel like he was probably like around 25 a game, which is not a lot, like between 20 and 25. He didn't throw the ball a lot. So they could make a change, especially later in the second half of the season, where when they needed to win games, they really relied on running the football. And that's where he thrives. That's why he's a top 5 quarterback in fantasy and will be, as long as he has the job there in Philadelphia. So it has nothing to do with the talent, because I think like I'm right there with you, Nick. I love AJ Brown as a player. As a wide receiver 1, I feel a little shaky about it. As a wide receiver 2, I mean, it's at that level of talent, he's going to have games where he pops off, and of course, then you're just you're looking for those big games from wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3.
I feel the same way about Deontay Johnson and Terry McLaurin as the way you're describing AJ Brown. Mike Evans, CD could be my number 1, and I could be okay with it. I would love to have them as my number 2 receiver, but I could be okay with it, especially my running backs are strong. Just quickly, Zeke, Chubb, obviously with the Deshaun Watson and suspension, obviously Kareem Hunt's there. Zeke will go for a K, but how many times is he going to get in the end zone? People are always, seriously like fat shaming the poor guy. Where are you guys? It's true. Like, where are you guys going with Zeke? Where are you guys going with Chubb? At what point do you pull the trigger on those 2?
Chubb's a running back number 1 in my opinion. I think that he goes as a top 5 pick in standard leagues. In the PPR league, maybe he falls a little bit lower just because wide receivers jump in there. In terms of Zeke, though, I'm very cautious just because I think Tony Pollard is going to get a lot of carries this year. It seems like they've already started to kind of transition Tony Pollard and Zeke into a committee backfield.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily know if Zeke even gets more than 15 carries per game this season.
Toss?
It's so tough. I mean, I agree with Nick, but I also think that like Zeke is a better pass catcher than Nick Chubb is. He's utilized more in the passing game than Nick Chubb is. And if you're in a half point, I still think I'm hoping he falls in drafts because I do want him because I think he's still a talented running back that the Cowboys don't pay a guy like that unless they're going to use him as a focal point of the offense. And they continue to pay this guy. So I have to trust that they're going to continue to utilize him as well. So I'd love him as my running back 2 for sure. If either one of them are your running back 2, like you're in a good spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if Chubb is your running back 2, you're in a great spot in my opinion.
Great spot.
Because that means
honestly,
that means that you got like Dalvin or Derrick Henry or Eckler or McCaffrey.
I think he could fall in a lot of drafts just because he doesn't catch a lot of passes. I think it's very possible.
And people are spooked about the quarterback situation over there. I'm glad you brought up Dalvin and Eckler. I will just real quick before we go off, thumbs up, thumbs down. Is Joe Mixon an RB1? Thumbs up if he's an RB1.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up? Great.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Joe Mixon's.
But on the back end.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a great add-in. All right, we're the charity stripe fans out there. Drag ball, feet inbound, swing on a full count, rip that puck, hit that putt, hit your PKs because they're free, hit your free throws. Why, guys?
Because they're free.
Because they're free. We outro. We love ya.